morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having us. So, my name's Catherine Wilkes. I'm a Senior Director at Scullion, based in Manchester. I'm joined today by Matthew Scullion, who's the CEO and founder of Matillion.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Matthew, today we're going to focus on two of the pillars, which are sustainability and community. So, maybe for those who aren't aware, could you tell us a little bit about what Matillion is and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, morning everyone. And Matillion is a software company. We make enterprise infrastructure software, which is the plumbing software that makes businesses work. Specifically, our mission is to make the world's data useful. And so every aspect of how we work, live and play is being changed for the better, we hope, with data. Before any of that can happen though, you have to refine it from its raw state into a useful analytics ready state. And today the world's ability to do that is very constrained because we mostly do it by coding, and that's slow and the purview of only a small number of skilled people. So we make software that makes it much easier and faster to refine data and also allows a wider audience of people to do it, basically by making it easier, by making it visual. The company was founded in 2011. Between 2011 and 2015, we grew astronomically from 2 to 12 people. But since 2015 to today, we actually did grow quickly, and we're now 550 people, about 1,300 mostly large enterprise customers like London Stock Exchange and Amazon and Cisco and lots of others. We were valued at our last round at $1.5 billion. And about 90% of the business that we do is outside of the UK. Finally, I'd say, most importantly, we're, for this conversation at least, we're a high growth business model business. And so what I mean by that is the thing that scares us most every morning is the passing of time. Time's the biggest enemy of the high growth business. And so that leads to the need to innovate across the business in all dimensions all the time. So yeah, and we're in Altrincham, but shortly moving to South Manchester, to Central Manchester, I'm sorry.
Thanks very much, Matthew. So I guess innovation, as you said, is at the heart of everything that you do.
Yeah. Was
that always your ambition, and how have you set up the company to have that innovative culture?
Yeah, so was it always our ambition, my ambition, I suppose? And I think yes, although I'd be lying to say I knew it was going to end up where it is today and where I hope it's going to end up in a few more years' time. So my first business plan didn't say X revenue, Y employees, Z enterprise valuation in 2022. But we definitely did know that we wanted to be at the intersection of cloud and data because we thought that was a resonant area where there was big problems to be solved. What I always said back then and today is that we wanted to build something beautiful, build something we could be proud of. So not only solving a big problem, but doing it in what we feel is the right way, in a strong culture underpinned by values, a healthy, stimulating, intellectually safe and diverse place to work, all that sort of good stuff. This is a bit revisionist to say it like this perhaps, but I think what we did is we landed ourselves in the right kind of area in a purposeful way, cloud and data, and then just turned the handle until we found product market fit. And then once we'd found product market fit, we were off to the races and started acting like a high growth business. But to your point on like how did we do that and how's the culture relevant, actually the product market fit is a byproduct of the culture, not the other way around. In my opinion and experience at least, if you build the right culture, then you can attract and retain the right people, and they can have the creativity, freedom, and they want to innovate in a way that helps you find product market fit. And then once you start to get it, I'm talking like product market fit's an on and off switch. It's not, it's a continuum that you can gain and then lose and have more of than less. But you can innovate your way into a point where you're technology or solution or product is solving a real problem that customers want to pay to have solved. And it's culture that allows you to turn the handle and get to that point. And that culture, I think, is, at Matillion at least, underpinned by the 6 values that we all hold precious.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about your 6 values?
I can probably bore you all for the next 4 hours if you want. So every new Matillion that joins Matillion, I tell the story of the values, and it is true. I've possibly embellished it a bit over the years, but I don't think so too much. So January 20th, 2011, myself and a gentleman called Ed Thompson, who's co-founder and employee number 1, walk into a Bruntwood office in Knutsford. The whole business at that point is smaller than the little room I sit in our head office now. And we made a cup of tea because we're British, and then we set our PCs up, and then we briefly thought, oh my God, what have we done quitting our well-paid and really easy jobs? And then we thought, right, we better do some work. And Ed was the CTO, and so he started writing some software. He's also demonstrably, therefore, a bit less work shy than me. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll set up an intranet for the 2 of us that have already known each other 10 years. But the reason I did that was because I wanted to write down our values. I wanted to set the guardrails that we would hold ourselves to, and I also hoped that we wouldn't always be 2 people. So at Matillion we have 6 values, and they're the only non-negotiable things about working at the company. In all other ways, we celebrate and actively hunt out diversity because we think it makes the boat go faster, and we also think we're very lucky to have our lives and work in technology, and therefore it's our moral responsibility to share that. So in all other ways, we pursue diversity, except for the ability to live inside the guardrails of our 6 values, which if you can't do, you will be coached and then swiftly curated, which is a posh way of saying fired. So the 6 values are: value 1, confidence without arrogance. Number 2, we innovate and demand quality, which is pretty relevant to our conversation. We have a bias for action, we're customer obsessed, we do business with integrity, and at Matillion we care about Matillioners, their families, and the society in which we operate. So those 6 values kind of tell me, Ed, all the other 550 Matillioners that have joined since, and all those that will join, how to be successful working in our company. And what they do is they set up an environment in which innovation can flourish, and as a byproduct, a business that you can be proud of. So they're all relevant to it, but first of all, perhaps most importantly, confidence without arrogance. We've got to be confident. We're solving a big problem, and we're trying to build a genuinely consequential company as a byproduct. There's 25,000 Silicon Valley-backed companies in the last 10 years. Of those, 50 have made it to an enterprise valuation of 10 billion or above. We think we have an unfair right to win an outsized chunk of about an $8 billion TAM. And we're making good progress on that, which means over the next 5 to 10 years, we should hopefully be able to build a $1.5 to $2.5 billion revenue business. If you hit $1 billion of revenue at 40% growth, you're worth about 20 billion. So we've got a decent shot. This is not a slam dunk, by the way, the work to do, but we've got a decent shot of building a north of $10 billion company, which has only been done 50 times out of 25,000 out of an already very elite crew, right? So you've got to be confident to try and do that.
Awesome.
What you absolutely can't be, though, is arrogant. And there's kind of 2 main reasons for that. In my experience, at least, almost every business, be it technology or social or manufacturing or retail, in some large part is a people business. There's only 2 types of problems in business: people problems you haven't yet figured out are people problems. Well, people don't like arrogant people, right? It's just not an attractive character trait. But the other thing is, arrogance makes you assume that you know everything. So the opposite of arrogance makes you assume that you don't, and you learn at the requisite accelerated rates to keep up with a high growth business. Bias for action. At Matillion, we get things done in a considered way, and like the life hack here is 70%. If you know 70% of what you need to do it. If you know 50, go and find the other 20%. If you know 80, you've waited too long. That's waste. One of the biggest things that we try to educate our engineering and R&D teams is code sat on screens isn't making customers' lives better. So at Matillion, we have a bias for action. And then innovate and demand quality. So this conversation is perhaps the most important one. we recognize that no person, no product, and no process is ever finished. Like if your company's doubling in size year over year, the things that were good Jan 1, 2021 don't work anymore Jan 1, 2022. So no person, no process, no products are ever finished. And of those, the most important is no person. So the values give you this kind of toolkit to be successful. And you know, as a leader within the business, it's your job to lead your organization, in my case lead the company, to hire people that are going to be able to thrive and live within the guardrails of these values, but also to protect them, right? Which is why we're pretty rote on coach and curate. Like if you're just a little bit outside, we'll teach you how to do it. If you're materially outside, then it's not going to work out and you're going to have to leave.
Right, okay. I mean, I can understand how you've got such a strong company culture there, you know, underpinned by the values. Are there any other ways that you keep your company culture alive, and how have you done that through your period of rapid growth?
So probably the number one question I get asked by current and prospective Matillionaires, sometimes outside the company as well, but you know, I do various things to talk to my team. Another kind of Matillion nomenclature line is that Matillion, the most important thing isn't the product, it isn't even the customers, it's certainly not the shiny investors, it's the team, because the team makes all those other things come true. And so if it's the most important thing, you look after it. I talk to my team a lot. And one of the things that I get asked most, the two top questions, when are we going to IPO? Which I have a stock answer educating that's not a simple question. And secondly, how are you going to scale the culture? And the answer I always give is I've been being asked that question since we were two people. When we were two people, people were worried about it at 10. When we were 10, 50, 50, 100, 100, 500, you're asking it now. And the answer is always the same. Outcomes are correlated to effort, right? If it's important to you, put the effort in and you will prosper at doing that. So we just work really hard at it. You know, we have an unusually large people ops team for a company of our size, about 30 people in people ops for a 550 team member company. I spend most of my time thinking about building a world-class team and giving them environments to succeed, rather than thinking about what class we need to extend in our software or what marketing campaign we need to run in our demand generation team. You know, if we take things like the values, I tell that story in a values enablement workshop that I do. In fact, I've got one this afternoon. It's like a 90-minute workshop. Anyone that's joined in the last 6 weeks gets on the phone with me. I tell the story about the cup of tea and setting up the PCs and being work shy and all that sort of stuff. However, no process, personal products ever finished. I don't think 90 minutes with me is stage commensurate anymore. So we're now swapping that out to a 1 week long residential course on our values for all new Matillionaires. We actually had a film crew in our offices yesterday with actors pretending to be Matillionaires wearing green t-shirts, failing to live the values, so we could video it and then use that as enablement for new guys. So what I'm saying here is basically you work at it, and that helps you protect and grow the culture. And you know, cultures change over time. We are trying to build something beautiful and that we can be proud of, but we're also trying to make a dent in the universe bigger than ourselves. Now, in my opinion, and I don't think this is a Harvard Business School line, so careful not to quote it too much, but I think there's 3 ways to build a company. There's a culture-only way, there's a performance-only way, and there's a both way. And 2 of those 3 ways work. The performance-only way works, right? It's not very nice. It's not what I want to do, but it works. In a public forum, I won't quote the many, many companies that have become consequential despite a complete vacuum of culture. The culture-only way doesn't work, or at least not to build a consequential company, because part of building a consequential company is making hard decisions, and if you only have culture, you don't have a focus on performance, you just won't want to do that. So culture and performance works. The only downside of that one is it's just more work. So if that's important to you, you prioritize it, do the work. You know, finally, every new team member that starts gets interviewed in a loop against the 6 values, almost more than like their hands-on skills. Everybody gets a quarterly QDD where we check how well they're living the 6 values. I talk about them all the time and try to live them authentically. You know, we've just, a final example I'll give, we've just had a really wonderful opportunity post-pandemic to get the whole team together. We call it, we have an all hands every 6 weeks. Once a year we have a super all hands. That was in Manchester. It's a very personal, proud moment for me being a Mancunian, because we hired GMEX and lit it up green, which is the company colour. But yeah, we had 500 odd Matillions in there, well 450 actually, and then another 100 dialed in virtually from around the world. A big part of what we did was reinstall the values. We're like, look, here's the vision, make the world's data useful. Here's how we're going to do it, deliver the data operating system. Here's our 4 strategic pillars for this year, durable growth, era of the partner, world-class business, platform, not product. And here's how we behave as we do all that stuff. We care, we're confident without being arrogant, etc., etc. So work at it.
I see what you mean about working at it. There's a lot of effort that's going on there, definitely. I'm not going to ask you about IPOing. I'll move on to something else. So
you can. I have an answer.
It's fine. It's fine. So your product. So you said earlier that you knew you wanted to create something around the intersection between cloud and data.
Yes.
How do you now make sure that your products are meeting the needs of your customers?
Oh, do you know what? That's such a good question, because whilst our company, we believe the most important thing is the team. That team and our company only exist to make the life of our customers better. So how do you keep your technology moving forward to do that? And there's obvious answers, like you hire the right people to help you do that. You build a culture where they can think and be heard and debate and hold each other to account and all that sort of stuff. But we've kind of covered that, I think, in the short time we have available. So the other big thing I would say here is it's creating stage commensurate for where you're up to. I like to think of it as an industrialized process to listen to the needs of the market and your customers, and then synthesize that into what you deliver for them. So, in the early days, that's hanging out with people and asking them questions. And, I always think a brilliant trait for any entrepreneur or business leader to have is just curiosity, right? Just ask lots of questions. But don't just ask the self-serving ones that tell you that your product's good. Also ask the ones that tell you why your product isn't good, or what the customer needs that you don't do yet. As you scale that up, that starts to turn into teams and processes. So, a couple of examples. We have a product team. It's part of our R&D organization. Essentially, that team's job is to speak to and interview our customers, our competitors' customers, customers that we tried to win but failed to, other people in the ecosystem, partners, write all that down and then come up with a prioritized list of things that we need to build. When we're building something, we stand up a little team of customers that are interested in that area and get them to work with us as we go through the journey of doing that to make sure that they like it. So by the time that we ship the product, we already know that it solves a real world problem for customers in the way they like. And the useful byproducts of that in software is we also know it's going to work. Within our go-to-market organization, we do win-loss interviews. So I don't know if anyone uses Salesforce. We use Salesforce for CRM. When a rep sets the deal to lost, it kind of goes into a hat, and then we'll take 20 or 30 of those losses out of the hat, and we pay an external company to phone up that customer and say, why did you choose to go with Matillion? Or even better, why did you choose not to go with Matillion? And then we write all that down and we review it and blah, blah, blah. I have a program called Know Thy Customer. I personally spend about 3 or 4 hours on the phone per week just talking to customers, like, tell me what you're doing with the software, tell me why you like it, tell me why you don't like it. It's an industrialized process to listen to and synthesize your customers in the market. And so many times you see companies that are like optimizing the heck out of go-to-market, their marketing programs, their sales professionals, and they're growing a bit. You can always see it if they're working really hard and it feels well tuned, but the growth isn't really strong. And or if gross or net retention, how many customers out of 10 do you keep? Or how much revenue from 10 customers do you keep a year later? If those numbers are poor, that's a signal that you're just not solving a problem that people really need solving. Now, off the back of that, you build the software that they need. And then finally, as ever, it's underpinned by the values, right? No process and purpose or product is ever finished. We are customer obsessed. So constantly thinking about what customers need.
Amazing.
It's
Thanks
exhausting, mate.
Yeah, you and your team sound very, very busy. But yeah. Anything else you'd like to add today, Matthew?
Oh, it's just a wonderful opportunity to come into town and share a small part of the story. I don't know if anything I talked about was relevant to anyone, but if it is, it's Matthew Scullion Matillion. You can find me on LinkedIn or all other social networks, I should imagine. Apart from any social networks designed for young people, because I'm not on those, please feel free to reach out, and it's always nice to talk business. But thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome. Thank you.